and I'll send everybody new invites. So, all right, looks like we are live on Facebook, and we are recording this for people that would like to see it later. So, looks like Elizabeth is joining us. I'm not sure what Elizabeth's last name is, but welcome, Elizabeth. Hey, so today, this is our District 6 coffee. Usually we meet in person at the downtown Y, but since things have changed, we've been doing these on Zoom, and they've been pretty successful. Today we decided to ask some of our community policing officers if they would join us and answer a few questions that I have, and then questions from the audience also. So I'm going to let each of the officers introduce themselves and tell us what beat they work, and what the geographic boundaries of those beats are, because sometimes people don't know what beat 42 is. So anyway, let's start with Officer Atondo. Officer Atondo was with us before and then left, went out west, and has just recently returned. So Officer Atondo, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, hello all. I'm Officer Atondo. I just got transferred out to the West Station about 6 months ago, and I got moved over to 12 beat, which is the Delano district area. And the beat from there pretty much covers Riverside area, Riverside Park, going down to Kellogg, and then kind of the western boundary is Elizabeth Street up to Douglas, and then over to Meridian. It kind of snakes around the river and goes kind of clear up to 13th Street. And from 13th Street, it goes over to River Boulevard and back south and snakes along the river again, taking up, west of the river off Murdoch, the Murdoch Bridge, from Waco. So it's pretty big, and there's a lot of activity on it, and so that kind of keeps us all busy there. So I really enjoy it.
Well, we're glad you're back with us.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm back with you too.
Yeah. All right, Officer Lowe, you have a little bit different beat than the rest of the officers. So why don't you tell us about what you do?
I'm not trying to brag, but I have the entire city. These guys can only cover a beat. I mean, no big deal. Some of us have different challenges.
That's bragging.
Been on the department for 19 years. I've been on the homeless outreach team for the last 4 years, and we cover the entire city. We try and handle as many homeless complaints as we can. We cover we're the only team in the city that can enforce our camping ordinance, which is very specific. And we're the only 4 officers in the city that can do that. So we stay busy with that. But also when we enforce those camping ordinances, we're also doing outreach. So we're trying to connect people to resources, housing resources, drug and alcohol rehabilitation resources. So it's a very challenging position. It's the most rewarding that I've been in, but it's incredibly challenging. And we have the entire city. And then if anybody needs to know any other particulars, they can ask.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you for your work with the hot team. Really appreciate that.
Sam, thank you.
Officer Chrisman.
I'm Officer Chris Chrisman. I've been with the department for about 12 years. I'm the 21 beat officer, which is a little smaller than Officer Lowe's geographical area. From Hydraulic to Broadway, from Central to Kellogg. That encompasses Old Town as well as the Open Door area, 2nd and Topeka. So I tell everybody that my beat's literally like night and day, because we have the nighttime stuff with the clubs in Old Town and then the businesses and different regular beat issues in the surrounding area there.
Thank you. Officer Johnson.
Hi, I'm Officer Brent Johnson. I'm on 41 beat. So the boundaries for it go from Central to 17th Street and Broadway to the river. And essentially, I have the biggest chunk of the historic Midtown Neighborhood Association, and a lot of just kind of downtown area issues. So.
Thanks. All right. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and then I'm going to open it up for questions from the audience also. But I'm going to start with you, Officer Johnson. So first of all, how long have you been with the force?
I've been on just short of 13 years.
13 years. Okay. So what do you think in your background helped prepare you for community policing?
I think probably what best prepared me for community policing is really, you know, as a patrol officer, you do meet with a lot of different people, and you get to do a lot of different jobs. But primarily, what you do is you're responding to 911 calls. I think what prepared me the best was really shadowing and following Officer Lowe here. He was the community policing officer for 31 beat back when I was on the beat, and I don't know why I got muted. I was shadowing him a lot and going to a lot of neighborhood association meetings and a lot of community events and stuff like that. And that's really, I think, what prepared me best was probably just being able to see all that and getting to see how he responded to a lot of neighborhood complaints. So
yeah. Okay. Officer Tondo, how long have you been on the force?
I'm coming up on 24 years.
Oh, so you're our longest veteran here on our panel today. So what do you think? What do you think in your background prepared you most for community policing?
You know, I think I was always doing it, just working the beat, riding in my neighborhood. I rode in my neighborhood for a long time before I went to community policing. And I knew parents, I knew kids, I knew people that had gotten married and moved on, and I knew who moved in. So I think was always kind of in my character to talk to people and really get to know them. And I know sometimes with the 911 calls that you don't always have time, but it seems like while I was on patrol, I would always run in and I would remember people from calls, and I'd stop by their front yard and talk to them and chat with them. So I always liked that aspect of community policing. So when an opportunity did come up, that is what I kind of jumped into. And so now with the community policing unit, it kind of really focuses on that public relations. And that's what I really enjoy at this time in my career. There's always the times when you were younger for the car chases and foot chases and stuff like that. But I really like, basically down to it, we really like helping people, and that's what it is.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. All right, Officer Chrisman, what do you like best about being a community policing officer?
I like to be able to help everybody, and it's, you know, like some of the other officers said, the 911 driven stuff, that's fun, and that's the exciting part of being a cop. But I think that we really get to influence, you know, everybody as a community, and we have so much more time to build those relationships with every citizen, instead of just, you know, the one that's calling you on their worst day when, you know, they're a victim of a crime.
Yeah, and if you've got those relationships with those people already and they're calling you on their worst day, that's a lot easier to handle, I think, because you have that relationship, right?
Absolutely. Those relationships, time and time again, help us solve crimes, and really, at the end of the day, help a neighborhood stay safer.
Yeah, absolutely. Officer Lowe, what do you enjoy most about being a community policing officer, and particularly on the hot team?
Oh, sure. I mean, I was in community policing for 10 years in Patrol East and West. So I got to see pretty different dynamics as far as areas of town. And Atondo, I mean, he spelled it out perfectly. I think some people gravitate toward that because they want to get in the weeds on those problems. I like to consider myself as a problem solver. I like those challenges. Sometimes they're more than we can kind of handle mentally, but we fight through it and we get it done. And that's what I liked about community policing. And homeless outreach team, like I said, it's the most frustrating, most challenging position I've been in, but it's the most rewarding. When you get a blind woman off the street and you get her eyesight back, or you get a family of 6, single mom with 5 kids into housing because you've networked and you know who to call, the programs to connect her to. And we're literally changing and saving lives without, CPR immediately. We really are changing and saving lives. And I could quit tomorrow and be 100% confident that I came and did this job and I was very successful at it, and I changed a lot of lives for the better. And I feel good about that. And that's why I became a police officer. And as the other officers said, patrol is one thing, and it's absolutely 100% necessary, because it's where the rubber meets the road. We have to have 911. We have to have officers responding to those calls. But in community policing and in homeless outreach team, we can get in the weeds and we can really dial in on what people need and spend some time with them and change their lives and the communities for the better.
There was a woman living under one of the bridges along the river, and I let you guys know about that.
Yep.
And Officer Nate sent me a picture of her moving into her new home.
Yep.
And I think that was really heartwarming. I mean, it was very touching, and it was amazing to me, the work that you guys do, and I really appreciate that. And I got to feel just a little piece of what you guys get to experience when those things are successful, right? When you help those people. So thank you. All right, I'm gonna pause here. I have some more questions, but I'm gonna pause here and see if there are questions from the audience. So if you have a question, could you just raise your hand, and then I'll recognize you and we'll let you ask questions of all or any specific officer or all of the officers. So anybody got a question? All right, looks like Elizabeth has a question. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was wondering from any and all what the current state of neighborhood watch is in the city or in our district, and is it active? And if there are past neighborhood watch groups, can we become active again? That's basically it.
Good question,
Cindy.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So I have a very active neighborhood watch in the area of 1600 North Park Place. They meet monthly, and they'll get together and meet at one person's house. And this particular person is the block captain. And so basically they get together and talked about anything in the area, different crime issues. And then I show up to the meetings and I'll talk about any crime that's shown up in the crime statistics for the area. So that way they kind of have an idea of what to watch for in the neighborhood. They're, as far as I know, one of the most active neighborhood watch groups that we have in the city right now. But neighborhood watch has kind of fallen off. Not as many people are active in it anymore. And I think it's a fantastic way for people to get to know your neighbors. If you guys see something suspicious, talking to each other about it, and maybe talking about trying to contact police, and so that we can try and take care of the issue. But neighborhood watch is just a really great way for you guys to work together and know, who belongs in the neighborhood and who doesn't. If somebody is walking along and you've never seen this person before, talking to the neighbors, hey, is this someone who new that's moved in, and that sort of thing. So I can't, say enough good things about it if you can actually have an active neighborhood watch.
So Officer Johnson, let me just follow up. Because I think Elizabeth was also asking if they would like to reactivate or start a neighborhood watch, what would the first step be?
So I think the first step would really just be getting with your neighbors and probably either creating a flyer or just maybe knocking door to door and knocking on your neighbors and say, who wants to be part of a neighborhood watch? That maybe we'll have, monthly or bi-monthly or, quarterly meetings and then just kind of get a set of phone numbers together so you guys can have a phone tree. You guys can call each other, and learn that, so and so is maybe on vacation, and we'll keep an eye on their house. And so going on from there, there's plenty of resources that your community policing officer can give you moving on from there. But that's really the first step, is really just getting a group of people, like-minded people that are interested in that.
All right, thanks. I think Elizabeth, you had a follow-up.
Well, we organized our neighborhood watch groups like 20 years ago, and technology was way different then. And we had sheets that we had all the information on, and we photocopied them, and so I was wondering how that's been updated, and what type of I guess technology people are taking advantage of now.
I would say the number one thing is obviously emails. It's way easier to get a hold of folks through email now than it used to be. And then also probably what makes it easiest is, especially now during COVID, so many times you can do video meetings, and that's what I'm doing with my neighborhood watches. We're doing video meetings. And so that's really fantastic too. So there's a lot of really good resources that kind of help keep you guys in contact. So
Okay.
What
Thank you.
the guys that are in CP, what's that? There's an app. It's called, I think, Neighborhood
Door-
or Neighborhood. You know it?
Next
Yeah,
door.
doorbell.
Yeah.
Next door.
Yeah,
Next
that's it.
door.
I think that would be
Yeah.
huge, Elizabeth, for your for the virtual people that are more tech savvy.
Okay.
It's a really good way to keep in contact and keep in communication with your neighbors.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay, anybody else from the audience have questions? You can just raise your hand. Yeah, Deb, go ahead. You're still muted. There you go. Whoops, nope, went back. There you go. Oh, we can't hear you. If you'd like, you can put your question in the chat if you'd like, if we can't get it. Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions right now? All right. Well, I'm going to go back to my questions then. And you guys have talked a little bit about this, but I'm going to start with Officer Atondo. Okay. So what is the one thing you want neighbors to know about community policing officers' work?
It's too early in the I just woke up, and why are you making me think? You know what? We are, and it's kind of a buzzword nowadays with everything going on in America, and we're trying to build relationships with our own communities. And I don't want to say better, but that is something we're really focusing on now. And I think once this COVID thing is over with, you're going to see more gatherings, kind of like what we had before, maybe a couple of years ago, with events at different community centers and picnics. And I've had people ask me about that. And, it's something that at this time in America, we really can't do it with COVID right now. But when it does pass, I think we will be definitely having events such as that, like we've had before, with picnics and bicycle clinics. And I know one of our officers that I work with used to have this Halloween. I don't call it a party, but it was an event, and it was a large event. There was a lot of people really showed up for it, and we would call different agencies that show up. And so I think you're going to see more of that, and I think you're going to see more of these things with people having questions, just like Elizabeth had with Neighborhood Watch. That's kind of has fallen off the side a little bit, and maybe it's got to do something with the technology. People are sharing a lot of information nowadays, but not everybody's tech savvy. So I was thinking that I know I have a neighborhood that people are interested in that, and it kind of goes back to putting up signs. This is a neighborhood watch area, contacting the people in the block, and having somebody being responsible for it, and then they share information, and to always make sure that they call 911 if they see something. So I think you're going to see more of that once this COVID thing really has messed up a lot of our communication and meetings. So as you can see, we're doing this.
Yeah, where
So,
we'd be, yeah, we'd all be together. I think
yeah,
that's a good point. The big events have stopped. I do have
yeah,
some neighborhoods that are doing kind of small scale events where, outdoors, at a park, socially distanced, and but they're very small events. You can't
yeah,
really invite a whole lot of people right now.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn back to the chat because Deb got her question in there, and it had to do with Neighborhood Watch. This is a good follow-up to what you said, Officer Tondo. So does Neighborhood Not Watch need to be registered with the community policing officer? Can it be registered? And how do they involve the community policing officer? So somebody want to take that one? Maybe Officer Johnson? Yeah.
Sure, I'll take it. So yes, so neighborhood watch group does not have to be registered. It basically you can just start it and just have it going and just notify your community policing officer if you want them to attend meetings or anything like that, to kind of help keep you guys in the know. But no, there's nothing that requires you guys to kind of have that. It used to be that we used to register a lot of them merely because we had resources that we were giving to you, such as like there were signs and stickers and stuff like that, that you could kind of let everybody know that there was a neighborhood watch in the area. But I think a lot of those signs have gone away. So just those groups that want to have neighborhood watches, there's not really a sign that kind of tells people that you have one there. But you're obviously welcome to just do that and be a good group, a good community, to basically keep people in the know.
Good. Do you know if those signs are available if people want them? Or have we done away with that?
So last I had heard, I asked about trying to get signs, and they said that I believe that they weren't making them anymore.
Okay.
The other guys.
Brent, was the last when I was in community policing, Monica in Einstead, they went through her to get them. Has that changed?
Yeah, I think it was Monica I asked, but this was a couple of years ago that
Okay.
she said that they just weren't doing them anymore. So
Okay.
there's nothing that says that you can't create your own. I just don't think that they do it through the city anymore.
Okay. And then there was a question about locating our community policing officer. And I believe, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you go to wichita.gov to police, and you can look up who your community policing officer is, right? Is that how you do it?
Yes, you can do it that way.
Okay.
You can find it through your beat on the website. You can call your nearest substation and just give them your address and say, who's my community policing officer? They can find that way. Because a lot of times right now, because we had quite a few new community policing officers added to our ranks, we had a couple openings, so we filled those. And so the website might not be the most up to date right now. So I think probably the best way to make sure you're getting the correct one is to just call over to your nearest substation. So.
Okay, thanks. All right. Officer Chrisman, how can neighbors get to know their community policing officers?
I think, as Officer Johnson said, first of all, call the station and see who they are. The wichita.gov police website, they have all of our email addresses. You can shoot us an email. And for my beat, I put together a Google Voice account, and I actually give out that cell phone number so people can call me directly. Although, like I said earlier, the bars, they try to call me at about 3 a.m. Most of the time I'm not up. So you'll get a voicemail then, but email is probably the quickest way. I think all of us, usually if we're at work or not, the email's right there in our face.
All right, good. And what I found too with all of all of you that are on the call today and other community policing officers is that neighborhood associations, you guys show up at those meetings. I know Officer Chrisman attends all the board meetings of the Old Town Association, and I know those folks really appreciate that. But I know every time I show up at a neighborhood meeting, there is at least one officer there, and sometimes, you know, 2 or 3. So I think that is a good way, is to let those officers know. And then at our DAB meetings, all of the we have police officers that come and give reports and then at our coffees, you guys show up, even when I don't invite you. Today we invited you, but other times you guys come. So let's see, let me go to Officer Lowe. What do you think is the one thing you'd like neighbors to know about either community policing officers, but also the HOT, Homeless Outreach Team?
The one thing to know, so for homeless outreach, just to clarify actually, I'll just answer it. And if I cover it, awesome. If I don't, then I'll get to talk more. So what I'd love to tell the community is our homeless population, the vast amount of our homeless population have a drug abuse issue, the vast majority of them. And a lot of those problems cause mental illness. So now we have a dual diagnosis, dual problem that we're battling. Everyone in this chat has seen all the panhandlers at the exits to Walmarts, at high traffic intersections. And I want to tell you that there are tons of resources out there. People will not go hungry in Wichita. We have several Lord's Diners, and they have mobile units as well. We have food banks. We have several pages of food banks that will give food, and it's all week long. So if you want to help, and I think the reason why we have a lot of panhandlers is because Wichitans are very nice and good, and they want to help, and they think, well, I have $5 in my pocket. Let me just hand this guy this $5 bill, and that will help him. And I will tell you Daniel's story. Daniel was a prolific panhandler. We warned him. We tried to get him in treatment, and he was so far gone in his mental illness and his meth addiction that he told me he spends $60 a day in methamphetamines. And how he was getting his methamphetamines was not a job. He was getting money handed to him at intersections. So people were helping him destroy his own life because of that. We were able to get him to Texas to stay with his sister and go to a rehab there. It didn't work out, and he came back, and we haven't seen him since. We don't know what happened to him. But what I will say is, if you want to give money, give to an organization, because all that we funnel people to those organizations. And so if I'm telling everybody go to X, Y, and Z to get the help they need, those are the X, Y, and Z is where you're funneling the money, the resources, the food, the toiletries, everything that these guys need. But if you're just handing a guy $5 on the street, more likely than not, he is going to go buy methamphetamines, alcohol, or whatever, and we're not helping them. I mean, people give food. That's fine. It's a life-sustaining deal. And you know where that food is going. It's going to go in their belly. But that $5, $10, $20 isn't helping them by and large. And when we talk to homeless guys and ladies that will be honest with us, then that's what they tell us as well, is that's why I do it, to support my habit. Tobacco being one of them as well, but still. So that's what, as far as homeless outreach, that for the community's knowledge, for them to know, I think that's the most compassionate information I have, is to really understand where that money is going, and that there are so many resources out there available for these guys. And as far as community policing, like I think Officer Johnson said and Officer Chrisman echoed, is the first step is get a hold of your community policing officer. Whether you have a complaint of a barking dog all the way up to I have a drug dealing neighbor, they will handle it. And they've seen it all. They are very adept at handling those issues. And like I said in the beginning, they can get in the weeds on that. and they can get, narcotics officers involved. They can get our crime response team involved and really like get after that problem, because you guys live in those neighborhoods and we want you to have a good quality of life. And for you to have a good quality of life, you have to feel safe in your home. That is number one. If you don't feel safe in your home, then something has to change, and you shouldn't feel like that. So that's the first thing. Contact the community policing officer and say, hey, I have this problem. Can you help? And they'll get you either connected to the resource or they'll help you solve the problem. And I think does that answer your question, ma'am?
It does. And I think that's a really good point. I think even meeting your community policing officer before you have a problem is a good idea too. So let me follow up, because you brought up something about making donations to social service providers, which I think that is absolutely where that money that people want to give away. But I think also we should mention that the homeless outreach team accepts donations also. And so can you talk just a little bit about when you guys, how you spend money that's donated to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
How you help people?
Yeah, we normally 95% of what we do is we direct them to a particular resource, and we have some knowledge about some of the programs that these resources have. For example, Union Rescue Mission, I believe they have 4 to 6 programs. I don't know their programs intimately, but I can direct them to there, and then they can dial in on what that particular need is. The only program the homeless outreach team actually hosts and runs is the Finding a Way Home program. Finding a Way Home program is all donated dollars. There are no tax dollars affiliated with it. And what that money goes to is a bus ticket. Now, we are good stewards of that money. If we meet a person, one of the options that we give them is, you're living under a bridge right now. Do you have family that will take you in? Do you have a friend that will take you in that is maybe in another state to get you out of this situation? Because if they're not working, there is an addiction, there is mental illness or something like that, and they can't hold a job to get a bus ticket. But maybe mom lives in Florida and mom's like, yeah, I've been wanting him to come home. I've been wanting him to stay with me. I want to get him better. We can facilitate that. So, and like I said, we're good stewards with the money. We do not send homeless people in Wichita to be homeless somewhere else in someone else's community. I don't think it's ethical. I don't think it's morally right. And so we make sure that we confirm that they have a place to go. And that could be a shelter as well. So if, let's say we have full shelters in Wichita, and a lady says, but there's a place in Houston that will take me in. I won't just take her word for it and send her to Houston, and now she's homeless on the street in Houston. I'll call the shelter and I'll say, do you have beds available? If they say it's a first come, first serve, that's not good enough. I can't send her. But we confirm, we make absolutely positive that we talk to someone that's telling us, yes, I will take them in. Or if they get a job, I have a job lined up in South Carolina driving trucks, which is a real story. He's like, I just can't get there. And if I start Monday, I can start working. And we got him a bus ticket. He went down there and started working and called us back and said, hey, thanks for the bus ticket. I'm trucking now, and life is good. So that's what we also make sure that there's no warrants, because it's no good to buy them a ticket if they have a warrant and then another community runs them, another police officer in another state runs them, and they have a warrant through us, and then they extradite them back, and then now we're back to square one. So we make sure that we can get those warrants taken care of. So we just direct them to court, get heard by a judge, do whatever that you need to do to get that situated, and let's get you on your way and get you in a better position. And then we make sure they don't have any pending cases in Wichita. We don't want to have. I had a kid that he was 19. He was involved in a burglary the week before. He calls us up and says, hey, my mom will take me in Oklahoma. And so I did the research, and I'm like, no, you were arrested for a burglary. You're going to have to I can't buy you, in good conscience, I can't buy you a ticket hoping that you're going to come back and for court for your crime. So we look at all those details and figure out what we need to do. But it's a huge program. It has helped a ton of people. and it gives just one more really hefty resource to us to get those people connected back to friends, families, or other programs or shelters.
Yeah. Thanks, Officer Lowe. There was someone, Lisa has put in the chat that a little plug for Humankind, being a great organization that takes donations. Humankind has a campus over around 9th and Market, and they work with the homeless population to get them into housing and other services with case management that wraps around them. And they are actually looking at their campus and seeing what they can do to improve that. So we'll look forward to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Humankind Ministries is one of the premier, the best providers that we send people to. Humankind, they take everyone. They take single men, single women, couples, children, dogs and cats. And I'm not kidding. They take dogs and cats. They're the only shelter that has built runs at the back of their facility to be able to house those dogs and cats, because we have a lot of community, a lot of homeless people that get connected with those animals. You know, if I work 10 hours a day and I come home and I see my pet for an hour or two, these guys and these ladies are spending 24/7 with their animals. And that's a really, really heavy connection. And so some people don't want to go into shelter because they can't take their dog or their cat. And so Humankind Ministries saw that barrier and they added dog and cat runs. So, but they really do take all the hard cases. There's a lot of shelters that have a lot of barriers. And so if they have a urine test and it comes back dirty, some other shelters won't take them in. Humankind says, bring me everybody. Bring me everybody. We'll figure it out, and we'll get them connected to resources. And I can't say enough good things about Humankind Ministries. They've always been amazing. They have been over backwards. They've cleared out office space to house a mom and her two kids when I called them. So I can't say enough good things about them. They're amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really good. All right, so there's a question in the chat about community policing. Do the community policing officers, are you guys connected to the Nextdoor app?
Yes.
You know, yes, you are.
Yes.
So for your beat, you can
Yeah.
see what's going on. Okay, all right.
Yep.
So that answers that. And then there's a question about, can anything be done by community policing about speeders in our neighborhoods? It's a big problem every day in my area, and this is in the Northwest Big River area. Anybody want to take that one?
I'll take that one, Cindy.
Okay.
So really, when we're assigned to a beat as a community policing officer, everything that is a problem on that beat, from like Officer Lowe was talking, from the tiniest little thing all the way up to, drug houses, et cetera, everything is our issue to deal with. And so if you're having a speeding complaint, absolutely we want to hear about that, because we're going to try and do our best to address that complaint as whatever we can. So we'll try and we have at least out north, we have a stealth stat. Basically we can put this box out and it'll tell us, it'll actually run its own radar on the cars. And so it'll tell us through this whole program how many we have, what the normal speeding times are, when they most happen, that kind of stuff. A lot of times we'll probably ask you that if you have a speeding complaint, but and then what we'll do is we'll open what's called a traffic enforcement complaint. And so that'll be for the beat officers to help to try and enforce those, as well as we have, our downtown traffic motorcycle unit that will try and help us enforce those. So so if you have a speeding complaint, let us know about it so we can take care of it.
Yeah, and there's a follow-up to that about there are speeding problems on the weekend when the community policing officer isn't on duty. But as you said, Officer Johnson, the stealth trailer that you use, that no officer has to be there for that to work. So contacting your community policing officer during the week to let them know about these issues, and you guys can follow up with that.
Yeah, so a great example is, we were talking earlier about neighborhood watches, and my very active neighborhood watch had a complaint about speeding going through their neighborhood. One of our video meetings that we talked about, and so I put that unit out so I could try and see when the problem times were, and so I put that into the complaint, and so we'll take care of it however we need to. And so even though we're probably not working on the weekends to handle it, if the biggest problem is the weekends, we have patrol officers that work on the weekends that will be able to handle it. We have there's traffic enforcement officers who work. Some of them work on the weekends too. So.
Yeah, and you guys can help coordinate that. So I think that's, again, what community policing officers do, right? There's a question about, I'm not sure that anybody can answer this, but maybe you can. Lisa asks, we've been listening to the Sedgwick County Police Scanner to help us know of an issue in our immediate area, but we haven't been able to get the app to work. And they want to know if something's changed or if it's no longer available. You guys know anything about that?
I know the Sedgwick County Police Scanner, that app that's on line. Tell you the truth, I'm from Ohio, so my mom used to listen to that all the time. And as much as I tell her not to, there's no reason for you to be in Ohio listening to events in Wichita. I would say, first of all, those apps are delayed. So everything that you're hearing on that app has already happened, between probably 30 seconds to 5 minutes old. I would say if you want to know a good way to find out what's going on in your community, you can go to communitycrimemap.com, and it's really just the civilian version of the app we use to look up all the crime stats that you hear spit out at the DAB meetings. Obviously, it's redacted with the personal information that we get, but it will give you all of the calls and all of the cases that have been made in your neighborhood.
So that's communitycrime.org.
Communitycrimemap.org. I'm sorry, com. Communitycrimemap.com.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'm going to ask Charlie to mute his. Thank you.
I was going to say something. I know that there was a piece of equipment failed that supported that app 6 or 8 weeks ago, and I don't know whose equipment it is, but I saw that posted on the app some time ago.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions from people in the audience? Anything else you want to ask by voice or by chat? I have a couple more questions, but I want to make sure we get you guys' questions answered. All right. So I'm going to start with Officer Johnson. Okay. So what is something we should know about community policing officers that no one's asked today?
Well, I think one thing that's kind of great about community policing officers is we have a flexible schedule. So a lot of people don't know that, each shift has its own hours that it works. First shift works from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and second shift has its hours and stuff like that. As community policing officers, we have the ability to adjust our schedule to go to do really anything. And so while the vast majority of us probably work about 8 to 6, sometimes we'll work later to be there for a community meeting. Sometimes we'll come in early to work an issue like a speeding complaint, something that's early. Sometimes we'll come in on the weekends, like I am at the station today. I'm normally off on Saturdays, but I'm here today to be part of this meeting and then also to work a protest. So we'll come in and we'll do whatever we can to deal with an issue. And whenever we have to, we'll take care of it. And so we're kind of a jack of all trades. We deal with whatever issues are on our beat. Whether that be something that we're going to follow up on for detectives. Maybe the detectives aren't available to come out and try and find video for an issue or follow up on whatever, an auto theft or anything like that. And so we'll try and run different things down. And so that way we can get it taken care of for our community. So.
Thank you. Officer Tondo, what did we miss today? What didn't we ask you about that you'd like us to know about community policing officers?
That we like donuts. It's all true. Yes. I'm not exactly sure. What else can we talk about? Can you hear me, Cindy?
Yes. So we asked all the good questions, huh? We asked all the good questions. Right?
Yeah, we're very, as Officer Johnson was talking, we're not attached to so much as one schedule. They give us patrol cars, unlike other officers that share a patrol car with 4 different shifts, or two different shifts. I'm sorry. And apparently back in the early 90s when this really started, one of the reasons was to get those patrol cars out in the neighborhoods, and the thinking behind that was, hey, park them in the neighborhoods. Maybe that will help with speeding and patrol car parked on the road, or help with any kind of crime. I had heard that before, and that was one of the reasons why, when community policing first started, was the program to give a car to the officer. So the car becomes kind of your office. I get in it, and I just stay there and work my computer from there. And so yeah, that's one of the reasons. Nowadays, though, having a patrol car in front of your house isn't great, but it's got its ups and downs.
I think that's a really good thing. I've done a ride along, and I got a really good appreciation for what you guys deal with in your car. So sometimes people think like, oh, that officer didn't signal at that intersection. Well, if you're in their car and see all the things that they have to deal with, I'm amazed they can drive at all. So
yeah,
are,
some of them can't.
Sometimes you're working on it. You're looking at a call and you're on the radio at the same time, and
that's right. And on your phone,
3 or 4 hands.
You have to log things on your phone, log things on the computer, look things up here, and drive and watch what's going on, right, too, at the same time. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. True. Pretty amazing.
You brought up an excellent point, and ride-alongs give the community a huge perception change if they ride with an officer and they're like, I had no idea this was going on in Wichita. Scanners don't do it justice. If you're sitting in that cab with us and you're seeing the computer and you're seeing the radio and you're listening to radio traffic from other officers, you're going to those calls and you're watching. My girlfriend rode with me one day and I stopped a car, and she, after I got back in the truck, she was like, that was petrifying. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She goes, you don't know what he's going to do. And I go, exactly. That's why we're trained, and I take every precaution I possibly can when I'm walking up to that vehicle. But you never know what's going to happen. You just have to be ready. And it was a huge eye opener. And I've been a police officer for a long time, and she's been dating for a long time. It didn't click until she was there in the moment with me. And she's like, whoa, this is real. And I'm like, yeah, it's very real. And it changes your perspective of what's really going on in those police vehicles. So you actually I'm glad you said that. Yeah,
it does. I rode, one of my ride-alongs was with Broadway Corridor team. So that's also eye-opening. But I think you're right, Officer Lowe. Like so I rode for several hours, and officer told me that when his partner showed up, it was okay for me to get out of the car and, hang out. So I did, but we ended up down on South Broadway at one of those hotels, and I elected to stay in the car because of what was going on. But what was most alarming to me is just what you said about your girlfriend, is that Joey, the officer I was riding with, he went into a hotel room. And I was like, it's just like a bad movie, right? Don't go in there. Don't go in there. You don't know what's going to happen. He was okay, but it is very eye-opening. So there is a question about, how do you request a ride-along?
You can call any of the substations and start the process. There's a form you have to fill out, and make sure that, we don't have a felon that, hates cops and he just wants to use that information to hurt someone. So we make sure that, we screen them a little bit. But if you're anybody in this chat would most likely be able to ride with anybody. You pick your shift, what time, or the time you want to ride. You don't have to ride 10 hours. It's a long time. It's a long day. But yeah, you can go to any of the substations, fill out that paperwork, and they'll put you with someone, and you can go about your business. You mentioned Officer Houston, one of the best officers we have on this police department. Sergeant Gulliver has an amazing team. The Broadway Corridor team, for anybody that's in this chat that aren't familiar with them, they were a specialized unit to hit the Broadway Corridor, and they go a block or two east and west of that, and they go north side and south side, and they are the hardest working unit in this city, and I put money on that. They're amazing officers. They know everybody. They get things done, and I know that you're Councilwoman Claycomb, you're very familiar with the K2 thing that is going around. We have case after case after case almost every day around Open Door, and they are on top of it. They've identified 3 suspects. They've arrested 2 of the 3. They haven't found the third one in dealing K2 to our homeless population who are overdosing. And EMS is called there. Officer Kristen probably has the data on that, but they're called almost every day. Yesterday, I think there was 5 cases within a couple of hours of overdoses on K2. And our Broadway core team has identified those people, arrested several of them, but unfortunately the way that, things work, they're back out and committing, selling more dope to this vulnerable population. And but yeah, Broadway quarter team is amazing and they're doing incredible work. So if you can keep that funding to those guys, they're amazing. They really are amazing.
Yeah, so they were first, the funding for them first came from grant funding. And I think we all saw the just the success they have, even though I know some people say, well, it hasn't cleaned up Broadway. Well, you're right. It is amazing work that they do. And without them, things would be just really so difficult on Broadway. We wouldn't be able to handle it. But so we've moved that funding into permanent funding. So I think that's, so it's not grant funded anymore. We handle it in right out of the budget. So the other plug I want to make, and
Cindy?
you guys can follow. Yes.
Hey, Cindy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to have to leave you, but thank you for inviting me. My battery is dying on me and my cord's out in the car. I thought it was fully charged. So
That's
thank you for
okay.
the invite, and I will.
Thank you for joining us.
We'll catch you next time, okay?
All right. Thanks, Officer Tondo.
All right, bye.
Bye. The other plug I want to make is for Citizens Police Academy. So I know some of you on this call have taken that, and I know I actually was signed up to take it this class, but they've had to cancel it because of COVID, and they decided it's not really a class that lends itself too much to virtual. Some of it could be, but they wanted to do it live. So I'm signed up for it next time. But if you're interested in that, you can contact the police department. And I think there's an application out on wichita.gov. Anybody on here? I know Charlie, my husband, has taken that. Anybody else? Charlie, you're welcome to say a few things about that if you want.
I thought it was a great experience. I think there's 12 nights, once a week, and you find out bits and pieces about what each parts of the department do, and then they encourage you to do ride-alongs. And that was, I did a patrol north and a patrol south, and there was it was pretty interesting. So I'd encourage all of you. Yeah, and I've stopped calling. It used to be when I saw a cop car signal to make a turn, I would call 911 and report it as stolen because I figured it couldn't be a cop. But once, like Cindy said, once you do a ride along with them, you see they're driving with their knee and on their phone and their radio and on their laptop, and it's pretty amazing they can drive.
Anybody else on here? Have you taken Citizens Police Academy? Anybody else? Well, I would really encourage it. It is,
Cindy,
like I said, even though I haven't taken it, I know it's good. Yeah.
Can I plug Citizens Police Academy, particularly the Alumni Association? So I've been involved in what are we calling now? Citizens on Patrol or something, the river volunteers.
The river patrol,
up and down the river on the golf carts. And I've also been involved more recently in the volunteers that watch our cameras on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. And these are such a great group of people, and all they really want to do is help the Wichita Police Department. They volunteer their time up until 3 a.m. I've actually gotten with the camera folks, and we have cars broken into in the Old Town area with the blue light cameras. They go back and they will look at hours of video for me and then just give me that snippet. And they'll say, hey, this car was broken into on this camera from this amount of time. And I've been working with them. I'm trying to get it so that they can come in during the day because there's so much video for us to look at. If anybody's interested in that, please reach out to me and I'll see if I can put you in contact with them.
Yeah, that's a really good thing, Officer Chrisman, about the volunteers. So once people go through Citizens Police Academy, can join that alumni group. And the River Patrol. I saw that. I was on a city to city trip to Boise, Idaho, and they have that River Patrol up there. And so when I came back, I asked Chief Ramsey about that. I said, could we possibly do something like that? And so he said, well, we'll check it out. And to be able to use the Citizens Police Academy, they just jumped right in and have decided that that is a project they'll take on, and it's pretty amazing that they would do that. All right, well, we're coming to the end of our time. I'll ask just one last time if anybody in the audience has any follow-up questions. Well, thank you all for joining us today on the call, and thank those of you that are watching on Facebook Live also. And a big thank you to the community policing officers and the homeless outreach team for joining us today. I know this is early on a Saturday morning, and I really appreciate that you took the time to be with us. I can't say enough about the work that you guys do. It is just vitally important to our neighborhoods and to our residents. And I really appreciate it. And I run into these guys all the time, like I said, at meetings and events, and they are everywhere, so involved in the community, and I really appreciate that. So you all have a great weekend. And just a few things, just a couple of things. I do a weekly video on Facebook. So if you want to kind of get a quick update on what's been going on in the city, I do about a 3-minute video on that. It comes out on Saturday, kind of late afternoon. And you can go back, they stay out there. So if you want to kind of see what's been going on, pick those up. I also do a little video on exploring District 6. Those usually come out on Wednesdays, and I just pick somewhere in District 6, something that is something that I've come across in District 6 that I think people might be interested in. Do usually a little 30-second video on that. I think this week, I did the little public art sculpture at Central and Sheridan, which is a kind of a little, it looks like a little thing from outer space, but if you watch the video, you find out that it was designed after a flower. So anyway, take a look at those, and always follow our Facebook page. We try to keep people as informed as we can out there. And as always, if you have any questions, you can certainly email me at cclaycomb@wichita.gov. And thank you all for joining us for today, and we'll see you again either at a DAB meeting, a neighborhood meeting, or our next coffee in October. Bye, everybody.